was very suspicious of the Epistle of James because he thought it was so contradictory to Galatians and Romans, and he has a good point. Whether or not they're dealing with the same problem is another issue.
Also, the book of Judas that just came out recently.
Well, yeah, that's another. The problem is no one has ever seen all the originals together. We have copies of copies of copies, then we have many fragments.
But even the ones that have been seen have been picked and chose among, rather than just taking them all and saying this is the Bible. They just said, oh, this one works, this one doesn't work for our religion, so we're going to leave that one out.
Yeah, a proliferation of writing, so they had to weed some out is what they did.
And wait for them to clear it.
Yeah. And what's interesting is these things are taught in the religion departments, and say at the University of Tennessee, Maryville College, Carson Newman College, and at the Tennessee Wesleyan College. Very good scholars lay these various options out. Now we have a phone call.
Dr. Robert Price, too.
Yeah, let's hear our caller. Please, let's hear from him. Go ahead.
Hi. This question probably belongs more to last week's program, but I never got a chance to ask it. I read somewhere that Christianity was essentially an evolution of the mystery cults, whatever that is. So what are the mystery cults, if you don't mind my asking, and what is their relationship to Christianity? I'll just hang up and listen.
I've never done much research into that. I have heard that before, though. Joe, do you have any background in that?
Well, basically, this it would take a whole course to talk about mystery religions, but the word mystery means you have a certain piece of information or certain revelation or certain knowledge, Sophia, gnosis, Gnostic. Gnosis is just the Greek word for knowledge, and you have to be in on it. And then you've got spiritual revelation, and then some mystery religions have a historical person, and some waffle on that. Just as you have some of the Greek gods. I mean, how many of the well, there's a good book called "Did the Greeks Believe in Their Myths?" It's a very good book. I
haven't heard of that one.
Oh, it's a great book, and the footnotes are even better. And he tries to show that, some of they did believe in Zeus, but let's say you believe that Jesus heals, but you still go to the doctor, you see. And there are some Christians who won't go to doctors, but most Christians do.
Christian Scientists don't believe in going to the doctor.
And some Pentecostals, and understandably, sometimes in the 19th century.
What's strange,
that's
though,
another
is
story.
that
Go ahead.
Their insurance companies will take premiums so that when one of the Christian Science practitioners gets sick, they will come in and pray for them. I mean, that is what they take the money for, to come in and basically stand over them and chant.
Yeah. Now, my point was, to believe just as an abstraction is one thing, but belief is an expectation. So when you believe such and such about Jesus, what do you expect that's publicly observable? Now, you can do it in terms of one sentence referring to another sentence and another sentence referring to another sentence. But in the publicly observable world, what do you expect Jesus to do? Billy Graham once said, Christ could come today or 1,000 years from now. Well, that gives you that's not much of a prediction.
No, the Christians are fond of saying that, there's a separate magisteria for science and for religion. But if Jesus or God or whoever the supernatural being is manifests at all or interacts at all with the physical world, then it falls into the realm of science. Miracles would fall into the realm of science. If a amputee leg grew back then science would be able to go in and test that and read the documents of the thing, be able to make prognosis about it, look at the tissue, that type of thing. Once it starts manifesting in the real world, then you have science being able to do some testing.
The Gospel of Luke tries to make Jesus have after a resurrection, to have a physical body so that you could touch it. In other words, he was trying to deal with this. Then he has people on the road to Emmaus asking about what was taking place in Jerusalem, and they don't know, according to this story now, that the resurrected Jesus was right there walking with him. Now, they presumably, it leads to the impression they were disciples of some sort, in a broader sense of the word, and they had heard him, had seen him, but they didn't even recognize him. That's some facelift. And they didn't recognize his voice until began eating together. And that seems like a put-together story of the author of the Gospel of Luke trying to make this a credible story, but it doesn't seem to work too well.
Right. Let's make a few announcements while we have a little bit of time left. We now have an email address. If you'd like to write us an email with some questions or comments about the show, you can write to freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. It will be redirected to each and every one of our hosts here, and hopefully we'll be able to get an answer back to you. If you'd like to watch this show online anywhere in the world, go to ctvknox.org. It's a website for this local public station. That's ctvknox.org. And you can watch it right there on the screen. Just scroll down on the main page just a little bit to the purple area, and you can see it there.
I want to thank our callers. I wish we'd had more time. Those were good questions and comments.
Those were good questions, and we do have time for another caller or two if they'd like to call in now. The show is brought to you by a couple of local atheists and rationalist groups here in Knoxville, the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. You can see their websites there. It's kind of hard to see. But we're more than happy to have visitors, inquiries. You can go to those websites and send emails to us, any of us in particular, maybe. And you can call after the show is over on 215-8848.
Okay. We may have
buy
caller.
A copy of this DVD.
Go ahead.
So different religions have different levels of association between the supernatural and the respective mortals they're going to influence.
Sure.
And if we're disputing Jesus' history here to a point where he becomes kind of an amorphous figure, then what do you think of the importance of having a corporeal figure within the literature actually is? And furthermore, could Christianity survive if no one believed that Jesus was an actual person?
Do you want to go with that?
You could say this. All religions, like all cultures, where you have a free society, have been evolving and changing and modifying. So, Christianity has survived a lot of different changes and modifications. In fact, you could trace the evolution of it, of just on the theory of the Trinity alone. You could get the Cappadocians, you could get the Arians, the Augustinian Trinitarians. You can get all kinds of versions of this and look at it from the viewpoint of branches of a tree as evolution of theological concepts, and they continue to evolve.
Don't forget that they don't propagate only by beliefs and by dogma and by their theorems that they produce. They also propagate by the point of the sword, the torch, the threat, the shunning of people who don't belong to the group or refuse to believe the things in the group. There's an awful lot of coercion involved in a religious sect, a religious
that has been in the
organization
in the past.
You don't think shunning goes on today?
Well, let me finish. Around the world, a lot of it. Now, we have in this country still, although some evangelicals and some Catholics don't want it, church-state separation. And we've talked about this. Mm-hmm. But where you have a church-state separation, people have freedom to propagate their religion, but also if they don't agree with it, to modify it and change it, or
Which
else move to another.
all the time.
This is a very religious country because we have so much religious liberty,
Right.
and freedom of religion and freedom from religion.
That's true. And so it's not the only religion who has survived. There are literally 10,000 religions in the world today. Surviving is not a supernatural fact or act. It is something that just happens. It does have an awful lot of adherents, though. I will give it that. But at the same time, one of the major boots in its going forwardness, momentum, is the fact that they managed to convert a Roman emperor pretty early on.
Yeah,
and he made it the official religion of Rome. And then as Rome expanded and conquered lands, they made all of those lands Christian as well.
Yeah, we have to face the fact that some religions have grown by the sword.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't necessarily need it. Because they're partly what a religion has is not just theology. It's people coming together as a reinforcement group. All people, we're social animals.
That's right.
We need each other. Mm-hmm. And this is what church is. Ecclesia is the Greek word, means called together.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an atheist, you're an ecclesia. You're called together. You're a mutually support group.
Right. And until the idea of evolution came along and was pretty well substantiated after Darwin wrote his book, you couldn't really not believe in God, because at that point, you say, where'd we come from? You say, I don't know. There was really no way for a person to cognitively come up and say, well, we came from this or that, until Darwin came along. There's an old saying that says, evolution doesn't lead to atheism, it just makes it possible.
Yeah, of course, there have always been atheists. And then there are degrees of atheism. I mean, see, in some respects, if you, some Christians were regarded as atheists because they didn't believe in the polytheism. Right. And Socrates was called an atheist.
Right, so true. He was killed for heresy, wasn't he? Yeah. And he was made to drink hemlock for
he was. And also, you can see within each religion that has power, they have power over each other, so that a particular version of religion, well, Islam is divided in various groups, Christianity has various groups, and then you can see what's interesting among Christians is hopping over the lines. This book here has scholars. One is, I recognize, as a Catholic, one is not, and the one's a Protestant. You can...
Right. Yeah. Thank you, caller. We have less than a couple of minutes left.
Oh, good.
I think I've hit all the points that I really needed to make. Did you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to read to us?
Well, I have an interesting point. I think it's interesting, at least it is to me. Mm-hmm. I hope it is that people, when they deal with the Jesus question, they tend to select the part that's meaningful to them, and the other part they let fade into the background. Now, if you are a really hostile person and want power, you can select powers. Right.
Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Yeah. You could
the abomination.
You could say, "Depart from me, I never knew you." And where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Woman, what have I to do with you?
Yeah.
To his own mother at a wedding.
His own mother, So you can select those, or you can take the other passages.
If you're forming a cult, you can point to the passage where he says, you must hate your mother and your father and your sister and your brother to follow me. That type of thing. Like I say, the Bible is a Rorschach test. When somebody says that they got something from the Bible to support their own point, that's what they're really trying to promulgate. Their point. They're using the Bible just because they found something in it that would make their point for them.
Yeah, the reason I admire these scholars, they're trying to say, let's see if we can treat this like history, what works and what doesn't, and can it be literature?
Right.
Great literature.
This has been Freethought Forum. Thank you for watching.